Yo guys, and welcome back to another video on this channel. I hope you guys are doing fantastic as usual. And in today's video we're gonna add the ability to create own columns. So currently we have planned, in progress, and completed, which are kind of hard coded. I believe they're not fully hard coded, right? If I just go to this to-do column, yeah, planned, they're kind of hard-coded, I'm not gonna lie, but we are creating it somewhere, right? So we have like planned somewhere, I'm not really sure, it was such a long time ago since I did this. Yeah, exactly, this is where we are creating it. So we could potentially add another status here, and it should work. So if I add another board here and go into here, well, okay, maybe it will not work now since I have the same status, so it will kind of break completely. If I give it another name, will it work? Let's see, yeah, it will kind of work, and it says now undefined because we have hard-coded it here. We're giving it hard-coded names, but we can actually just let the user choose the name they want. So we can have planned in progress, whatever the user chooses. They can choose their own name and rename their statuses or their columns. I'm not really sure what we're going to be calling them. I guess they will just be columns. So we're going to let the user create their own columns so they can have how many they like, and then let them drag and drop tasks between them. But for this, we kind of need to look a bit at our layout. I don't think we're going to be able to fit this in just this width, you know, so we're gonna have to look a bit at scrolling, I believe, so that we can actually scroll horizontally. Otherwise we can't really do this, you know, we're kind of already running out of space and we only have 4 columns. So we kind of need to look a bit at how are we going to be scrolling here, but also how are we gonna be creating them. What kind of UI UX are we gonna have for creating one? I'm not really sure. We can't really like put a button here for just creating one, but perhaps you can have like add another column button or something like that. I'm not really sure what we're gonna be doing there. I guess we can take some inspiration from Googling. So if I just do some like, let's see if I can find any images for that. So, okay, to do board, to do app board. Let's see here. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm thinking about, but there's actually one I had in mind. It's called Trello, if you haven't heard about it yet. It's really great. But we're gonna make an even better to-do application. It's more like a project management, and this is more like a personal to-do application. So they're kind of for 2 different markets. But of course, you can use your to-do application for project management as well. You are in control here, so you shouldn't just be blatantly copying my code. I just want to inspire you of one way to do things. But point here is that you should make the to-do application that you love and not the to-do application that I love. So if you aren't already, focus a bit more on your own needs for the to-do application. If you have some special features in mind, I would definitely recommend you to focus on them and really follow yourself a bit there on what you want to create. So this is kind of how they do it. They have like an add another list, so they call them lists. All right, I'm not really sure, can we apply that here? They kind of have a nice scroll as well. So I guess we can try that out. If I just go to default board, if I add another column, then that will be like the adding column. We currently have this in flex and then flex column, so this is not really right. This is to-do board, yeah. Yeah, exactly. We have MD row and then we have flex col for the mobile layout. So if I just try adding this here. So let's see now, we get the divider added there, and then we can do something with this. I guess we can put a button. Now that we have done some accessibility in the last episode, we now know that everything that we want to be clickable should most likely be a button. So for this button, what do we want to show here? Create a new column or something like that, and that doesn't look like anything, but we can make it look like something. So we can perhaps give it like some border or something. If I do something like this, if I do border dotted and then border gray 200, how will that look? Okay, you can't really see that. Border gray 500. Yeah, that doesn't look amazing exactly, but we can make it, give some padding, create a new column. I feel like that looks quite nice perhaps. And then I guess we can also do item center here to center these columns a bit. Or do we even want to do that? This is more like the header thing, isn't it? So we have that. Okay, so it's in the to-do columns, right? I believe so. let's see how we're structuring it. Yeah, so we have everything in the to-do column, even the header itself, and we refactor that because that's the most sensible way to do it. But I feel like this makes sense. Create a new column. I feel like that looks pretty all right, you know. You can always design it even more later. If I just full screen this a bit more, we can see that it looks quite all right. I feel like it could definitely give it some more improvements here, but for the most part, I feel like that looks fine. For this, I feel like we should give the to-do columns kind of like a min width so that we can always respect the to-do columns. They will always have like a fixed size. Otherwise, it will kind of look a bit strange. You know, we kind of have this side effect already where they were like super large here, but it would make more sense if you have like a super wide screen. You don't want them to like cover everything. You just want to have them kind of like in a fixed dimension. So if I can change this for the to-do column, that would be amazing. So if I just try this out, if I just do min width 30 rem or something, how will that look? Okay, that's way too much. 10 rem, maybe 20 rem, or maybe 15 rem. I think that looks pretty nice. 15 rem. So already we actually have a scroll. I'm not really sure if we have applied that ourselves anywhere. Let's see here. So if I have overflow anywhere, we have that for the app itself, but it kind of worked, but not really. So we kind of need to do the same for this thing. This also needs to have a min width so that we can respect it and not like wrap like that, because that doesn't look that amazing. So we can probably just give it the same width there. So the same min width. We're gonna be making a rule out of this or find some suitable Tailwind CSS for that real quick. So real soon. So that looks pretty fine, but the create a new task looks really, really bad. So perhaps we should change this up completely now that we're following Trello a bit more. I believe they have it on the list itself. Yeah, so they have like add a card for each of these. And I feel like that makes way more sense now when we have a board layout, because we want to just add it to in progress. Then we don't need to type it and move it around from planned. You know, we kind of, when we're creating our own list, when the user gets to decide, then we should just let them create it wherever they like. We shouldn't like place it into planned by default, and there's actually no guarantee that there will be any column at all by default. So we kind of need to think like that now when it's a bit more dynamic, we need to think a bit differently. So here I feel like it would make sense to add that input field to all of these. I'm not really sure about the user interface there, but perhaps you can like give this a border or like give it like a background or something, because it looks a bit weird now when we have like these headers floating around. If I were to just add some input underneath, I feel like that would look a bit strange, but we can just remove it for now. It's kind of bothering me that it's not filling out the width here. So we can just go to app.svelte and comment it out real quick, and there we go. Now it's gone, and I'm getting a bit frustrated by this task file IO. I don't feel like we should keep it at all, or at least not like so visible. You can have like a super hidden menu for the real nerd who wants to export it to JSON, but we don't need to like show it visibly. I feel like that's some kind of bad design in my opinion. So we just have this now. We have this like a scroll, and I feel like that is a good starting point for what I want. I'm not really sure about the default board. It looks very strange now when we have it centered. So perhaps we want to instead now like align it to left. You can try that out. So we have this here. We have text center. Instead of text center, we just remove that. How will it look? Okay, that was maybe not it. Or do we have this justify center as well? Yes, we do. So we have justify center. If I just remove that justify center, there we go. Then perhaps some margin as well. So if I do margin left 4, perhaps. Yeah, I feel like that looks pretty all right. I'm not really sure for Trello. They kind of have it just up here. So we don't need to like fully copy their design either. We can just have it like this for now. I feel like this looks pretty nice. So there we go. Now we can have this, and we can also have like create a new column. I'm kind of bothered now because it's sticking out a bit here when it's not really full in the level here with the header here. So perhaps we can do something about this. If I just decrease the padding a little bit, if I just do 0.5, that's what we had already. If I make it 0.25, yeah, that's a bit more like it. That looks pretty nice actually. So I feel like that is padding 1. Let's try it out. Instead of padding 2, we can do padding 1. Yeah, there we go, padding 1. I feel like that looks much better. So this min width, I don't think there's so many rules for min width when it comes to Tailwind CSS, but you can always have a check if there's anything that matches that. No, we kind of have like min width full, min width max. And of course we can create our own custom Tailwind CSS classes. So I don't know if that is really necessary here though. It's not like we're really gonna be using this in very many places. It's more like very clear cut here that we just want this for the actual columns. So we can probably just put this in the global CSS. Not really sure if that is considered best practice now, but since we have it in 2 components, it gets kind of weird. So we can give it a name like task column width or something like that, so we're really clear what it is for. And then we can start using it here. So task column width. And then we can also use this inside of the actual to-do column, right? We have it here. And boom, no side effects. Amazing. So for this create a new column, I feel like we should use our beloved popping up input fields. We've been using them in some places, just like here. I really like this modern approach where it just pops up for you and all ready to type in, and I feel like that would be nice. We just replace it here if we have it, you know, enabled with like a flag, a boolean. Boom, we show an input field here instead, and boom, the user can start typing immediately, and boom, when they press enter, a new column appears. Wouldn't that be amazing? So let's go ahead and implement that. All right, so we can give this an event handler, so column create or something like that. I feel like that is pretty clear. Let's create that. So I guess we can handle this now, and we actually want to have a variable for this. So this will be something like adding column, which will be a boolean, and the default value will be false. And when we start column create, we do adding column, set that to true. And then for that, we can just show if adding column, then we can show an input field here, or else we show the button. So if I put an input field here, input type text, and if I try clicking that now, and boom, it appeared. It looks really, really bad, but we can handle that, of course. I believe, could we set padding here now? That is the question. I feel like it's being overridden now since we have that somewhere, don't we? We have that in here, or I feel like we have that somewhere. Padding 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem. This is Tailwind CSS, isn't it? I feel like that, or have we applied that ourselves? I feel like we have somewhere. Yeah, exactly. So here we have that. We have input type text, text area, P2. And now we need to kind of override that. But maybe we can have some like class that tells this CSS now that boom, we should not apply it. So I feel like there is something like that actually. I search for CSS not. I feel like there is something you can do. So not, and then we can give that a class, I believe. I'm not really sure if I can do it like this though. Let's see if that will work. See if I do something like not override input. Let's give it that for now. And then I can give that class to the input. Will this work? Yes, it will. It will actually work. That is actually crazy. I did not think it would be that easy. Amazing. So now we can handle this. We have the right padding already. I guess we can just apply some of these classes, and that will be, what do we have here actually? We have border gray. We kind of want everything here but the padding, but I guess we can just implement it manually for here. I feel like it's not that bad of code duplication. There we go. Not really sure about the width here. Maybe it's a little bit on the larger side. Maybe we can decrease it a bit here. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. 42. Nope, that was not valid. 40, I believe, is valid though. Not 40s, but 40. There we go. I feel like that looks pretty nice. So now we can also bind this so that we can bind to the element so that we can start focusing on it. So we'll be adding column element. That is pretty verbose, but we really tell what we're doing here. So adding column element, and this will be HTML input element or null, and the default value will be null. And then we bind to that over here. So when we start column create, we just want to do set timeout. Since DOM will not be ready, Svelte does not have time since we're running the code synchronously. So this will be running, and then the code here will be running. So we're just going to be setting a timeout so that we give Svelte some time to actually add the element. You know, it needs to actually add the element to the DOM before we can focus on it. So we can do that then after that inside of the timeout. So in here now, when we click that, boom, it autofocuses. Isn't that amazing? And then we simply want to handle on blur, but we also want to handle on key down. So that will be when we enter press, when we press the enter button on the keyboard, on adding column blur, and then we add that here, on adding column key down, and then we just want to check if e.key is not enter, we can just simply return early here. No need to continue with the code execution. And after that, well, we just want to run adding column blur, because then we have simply kind of blurred out. We have kind of finished inputting and we handle all of the good stuff inside of here. So for that, I guess we can use the value immediately, or we could bind to it. I guess we can bind to it. So we can bind value here, and this will be adding column name will be the name. So this will be the variable for that we're going to be binding to. And this will be a string, and the default value will be an empty string. So we can just check here if adding column name isn't empty string. We just want to check if the user has not typed in anything and they want to not add anything, then they simply click out, and then we don't want to create an empty column with an empty name, I mean. So then we actually want to add it, but otherwise we can simply just do adding column name and we set it to empty string. So it's kind of redundant, but you know, no need to wrap it in an else statement or anything like that. We can just have on adding column name. We can just set it to empty string anyways. And then we can do adding column and set that to false as well. So let's try that. Boom, it disappears. And also now when I press enter, it did not work since we have not actually bound it here. So we want to do that, of course. And now I press enter, boom, it works, amazing. So now I can handle that and actually add that column. And that should be pretty straightforward. Let's see how it actually looks at data here. So we have status planned. Yeah, it's just an empty array here of items, and then we have the status. This status we will need to handle, but we will do that shortly. So we can just do something like a board.columns equals, well, we can just push to it really, since we're going to be needing to do some reactivity anyways later. So we can do something like that, and then for the status now, we'll just put the name for now. It will kind of just show undefined, so it doesn't really matter, but let's just do that. And then we just want to assign it to itself so that Svelte knows that it has updated. And let's see now if I add something. Boom, it says undefined. Isn't that amazing? So for this, instead of using statuses now, we want to just let the user decide a name on its own. So instead of status type, let's just call it a name. So for this, we also need to add an ID field, since now when we have a name, we need to have a way to uniquely identify it. We shouldn't, you know, limit the user so that they can't create a column with the same name, even if it doesn't really make that much sense. So we just want to have ID here, which will just be a unique identifier, which we will generate for the user. And we can see the side effect of that, because we get a lot of red warnings down here, or rather errors. So we need to handle this. I'm not really sure. I guess we can just regenerate some unique identifiers, but we don't need to have planned anymore. So instead of that, we can generate one. I feel like that makes more sense. So if I just remove that another board, it's just kind of a relic of the past. We don't really need to have multiple default boards. So this will just be name, and then we can just do something like tasks, just the general tasks. And if the user wants to create more lists, then they can. So that's kind of giving the user more choice here. So if I just remove that, we have some old data in the trash can here. So let's remove that. Boom. Default board undefined. Amazing. So instead of status here, we can actually use name. And for the ID, we'll just do UUID v4. And then we want to import that from somewhere. Of course, just like usual. So we can import that like this. Boom. And now we kind of break. We kind of have this status thing that we're going to have to rework, you know. We have like a status on the task itself, don't we? Yeah, we do. So we're going to have to completely remodel that. So instead of using status here as the key, we'll just use the ID instead. So that is the unique identifier now. And I'll just clear that again, or, oh, I didn't really need to clear it. It's still gonna be broken because instead of showing the status here, we just want to show the name. So we can do column.name, and boom, it says tasks. Isn't that amazing? So I guess for the column width again, we can see now, since we have min width, it just kind of applies the min width, but then it can move freely above that as well. So I think the best practice here is just to add max width as well. And there we go, that's more like what I wanted it. Yeah, I just want it to be fixed size, and we can use width for that, but I feel like width is a bit more non-strict. So when we use min width, so we tell the browser that the element should really be that width. So let's try creating a new column real quick. If I do something like homework, boom, we got another column. Isn't that amazing? So just like I said, I feel like it makes more sense here to give this like a border and give it like a background color now, since we have not any headers anymore. They're more like lists. So I feel like this is where we want to do that, bg white. And yeah, it kind of worked, but now we also just want some border on that. So border gray 300, I believe we have used, yes. And then we can do padding on that as well, and rounded corners, of course, our beloved rounded corners. But as you can see, it didn't really work for that button there. I don't feel like it uses the full width. So if I just do with 100%, will that work? Yes, it will. So we'll just apply that real quick here into do board, I believe. Yes, just do with full there, and boom, problem is solved. Or is it solved? No, it was not solved actually. Why is that? Okay, it's on the actual button itself. All right, so we want to add this on the button here. Boom, now the problem is solved. But I feel like we also want to have text align center here, so let's do that. Yeah, I feel like that looks much better. But now when we have added that padding, it no longer matches the leveling here of the header there. So that's a bit frustrating. Maybe we can go back to padding 2. I'm not really sure. We have padding 2. How will that look? Yeah, I feel like that makes more sense now. So we have padding 2 instead. And here we have our tasks. Amazing. So now I want to add that button or input field where we can add new tasks. So that will be in the to-do column as well. So let's just put an input field and see how that looks. All right, we've got some really weird side effect now, since I placed this inside of the actual draggable container. Since we have drag and drop for these tasks inside of here, we want to put this underneath here, I believe. Like, yeah, exactly. So now it's no longer draggable. We have draggable input fields. That's our unique selling point with this to application. No, so yeah, I feel like this looks pretty fine. It looks a bit weird with so much spacing here though. I'm not sure what that's about. Padding Y4, all right. So maybe I can just remove this. I'm not really sure why we added that, but this looks much better in my opinion. And then we have input type text. Then we can here put something here. So we're not going to be really accessible here. Just like I said, if you want to be accessible, then you kind of have to sacrifice the style. And we have this really modern style here. So maybe we can add like an accessible mode in the future or something like that. If you really want to see that, feel free to comment. At least we are aware of it, and that's what matters, so that we can implement it in the future if there is a need for it. So for this placeholder, I just can just do add a task. And yeah, I feel like that looks pretty alright, you know. It doesn't look amazing, but it definitely looks decent enough. So now we're gonna do the same old chore of adding key down and checking if it's enter. So on key down, and we check, just like usual, if it's enter, then we return early. Then I'll just create a variable for that, so that we can bind the text value to something. So add name, and that will be an empty string. And then we can handle that. So let's just log it out real quick. So add name. And if I try that out, so if I just do homework, boom, it works. Isn't that amazing? Let's just empty that as well. Boom, homework. So now let's actually add the task. You can take a look at to-do item create, since that is where we did it previously. So this should probably be easier now, since we are not going to be doing like weird indexing here. We're just going to be adding it to the column that it belongs to. So I'll just copy this code, and we're going to be looking at this status stuff real soon. So for this, we probably just want to do column dot items dot push. I'll just push to that, and boom, title here will be the name, so that will be add name. And let's copy that UUID v4. I really need to memorize how to write that. Then we just want to assign column to itself so that Svelte knows that it is being reactive and that it will be redrawn. And let's try it out. Boom, we're adding tasks. So I feel like we should add some margin top here, of course, but maybe only if there actually is a task. I guess we can do this with flex, so that is probably the easiest way. You can just do flex, and then we can do gap 2, and then we can do flex call. So there will only really be a gap if there is actually a task above it, hopefully. So let's see if that works, and we can't see that. If I create a new column, we can see that. And okay, so it's matching the lengths here. We do not want that, so we need to handle that. And I believe we can do that with justify self. So I think we can do something like self start, and it will, you know, not stretch itself into oblivion. And yeah, it actually seemed to work. So we have self start, and we can see that that worked right with the gap. There's some margin top here though that we can probably get rid of, right? So margin top 2. Okay, so that is from that. All right, so perhaps we can put this inside of that as well to give that gap. And yes, we could, but we still have some margin, or do we? It's just kind of giving us a gap here because there is an element, but it, you know, doesn't exist really. So I guess we'll just keep it like this. It doesn't really matter that much. And one thing that I notice here is that this border is really, really clear now. We can really see it. It's way too dark, so we probably just give it the same border as this one. So that will be the to-do item, and this has border black, so that's a bit extreme. So we can give it border gray 300, I believe. And yeah, that looks really nice. I'm not sure about the shadows anymore, since we kind of changed everything now, and we have like a background on another background, but why not have it like this? I feel like shadows make it look a bit nice anyways. And we can still move them around, and isn't that amazing? And let's see, deleting, does deleting work? No, it does not delete. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we have this calm stuff that we need to really take a look at very soon. So we have this status stuff, but we can at least add some tasks, and I believe we can edit them as well. We can close that, or did that even work? What happened now? Wait, don't we have a save button for the edit close modal? It just kind of saves. Anyways, this is very strange. Okay, so I guess it's just on blur, I believe, or is that how we're doing it? Yeah, we're doing on task title blur and save to local storage. And this save to local storage dispatches save. So let's see where that comes from. I guess it's in app.svelte. Got a lot of stuff in here. I feel like we should clean it up soon, give ourselves some refactoring. So we have on save, on task, edit, save. So yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff with these columns. Yeah, we're really breaking everything with this, removing the status. So perhaps it's time to take a look at that. So other than that, there's not a lot that I wanted to implement other. Perhaps also making these lists draggable. Wouldn't that be amazing? And that should also be really easy with the help of Svelte D&D action. So let's try it out. Why not? It will only take like a couple of minutes. If I remember how to do this. So to do column, we just copy it from here. Copy this stuff. That's all we need. These 3 lines of code, really. These 3 lines of code. There we go. And for that, we want to do it on this flex call, right? We want to do it on this one that is draggable. So this will also become draggable then, which we do not want. All right, so perhaps we just want to put this into like an intermediary thing. Not really sure what we're gonna accomplish though. So if I just put this here, use D&D zone, use that action, import it. The items here will be board.columns, and handle D&D consider. We can create them real quick, and that should hopefully work. Okay, so it's broke now since we don't have flex on this here. Yeah, well, let's just copy all of this stuff, and well, except for the margin top there. And there we go, problem is solved. Let's see now, are they drag and droppable? No, they are not. Okay, of course, we have not actually implemented handle D&D consider and handle D&D finalize. So let's have a look here. Where are we doing that? This is the E event. So you can actually type annotate this a bit more, but it's a bit complicated. So let's not do that. We have the handle D&D consider, and this will just be board.columns is e.detail.items, I believe. Let's see if that's correct. Yes, it is. So let's do the same thing for finalize when we have actually decided on where we want to drop them. And we don't want CSS there, we want to have some JavaScript, of course. And yeah, okay, it kind of broke a bit now. Let's see what this is about. It's in tags for some reason. Why have tags gone bananas for some reason? This is tags, we're looping over tags. Is there something weird with the tags? I'm not really sure. Everything's broken with the data. Let's just remove it and see if it appears again. So I can add some tasks now. I can also create a new column. Let's see if I can rearrange them. No, I still cannot do that. Only iterates over array-like objects. And it's on tags again. That's really strange. Why is it doing that for tags? Let's see if I remove tags real quick, if we're gonna solve that issue. If it has to do with tags, I don't think so. I think it's just some other issue that we're not really seeing clearly right now. So if I try that again, okay, so tags is undefined. Alright, so that's really strange. It seems to be something here now. We have tags.length. Tags have gone nuts for some reason. Let's just remove the whole thing. Alright, so now it seems like you can drag and drop them. Okay, I think we need to handle that, since we can kind of drag and drop them, nest them and stuff like that. We don't want to do with that, but we can see that it kind of worked. Maybe that was what the issue was, that was nesting it and that it complained then. But we can see it kind of works like we intended. I believe there's something in Svelte D&D action called like type that we can use for that. So Svelte D&D action, so we can actually specify the type so that we don't add like different types of items. So yeah, type, then we can just add that, so we make sure that we don't drag and drop it into something else. So we have this for the to-do board, and this will be type column, and this will be like the actual, well, it will be more like the column, and then for the other one we can have like type tasks or something. So for this we want to have the type tasks. Let's see if that works now. Yes, it will. So now I can no longer nest it. Even if that is cool, we're not going to be doing that in this to-do application at least. So let's see if I bring back the tags, will it work? Yes, it seems like it works. So it just has to do with that nesting there that I was like trying to add it to another one. And yeah, we can still move them between the actual lists, which is amazing. I guess we can add some padding here though, since we don't really have much space to add it to. That is kind of a problem. But I feel like we should take a look at that status situation that is breaking everything. So we have a lot of errors regarding that. And we're just gonna be removing the status. I feel like we don't need to have a status anymore when we have columns. So we're just gonna get rid of that completely, and we're not gonna have completed status or anything. The task is simply completed. If the user chooses to move it to their own completed column, or just removing the task or something like that. Column from move task by status. How are we using this? So this is on task completed change. All of this stuff we're not going to be doing anymore, so I feel like we can get rid of that quite easily. On completed change. And yeah, I think this has to do with the checkbox, but perhaps we're gonna solve this another way. I feel like we should do that. So if I can just get rid of that, can I do that? Okay, it doesn't seem like I can actually comment it here, so I'll just bring it somewhere else in a comment here. There we go, we solved the problems in this file. To do item, we have status as well. We can still don't think we can do that there, so let's just move it up here again. And then to do item screams, because we have status here as well, so let's handle that. We have on completed change. So much stuff really, but we can handle that. Feel like completed. Will that break anything? Hopefully not. But we have to-do column as well. The status here we can get rid of. And then we have this task.status is column.status. We're not going to be using this at all, so we can just comment this out, I feel like. And there we go. Are there any more issues? I feel like we're using statuses here a lot in app.svelte as well. So on task, edit, save, column, index. All right, so... And I feel like the easiest way to do this is just by using like find index, or what it's called, find index. So we can find the index in the array, I believe, with just a predicate here. So we can do like board, and then, well, this will be, yeah, it will more be like board.column. So columns, and we find a column where c.items dot find, well, it will more be like, yeah, I guess we can do find here. That should probably work. So I can do find here, and the task will be t.id equals e.detail.id. So we just find index where the task is, and hopefully that should be the same, the equivalent of finding the column index. So let's see if that works. If I rename that now and close the modal, will it save? And yes, it will. It seems to work. Isn't that amazing? So now I can hopefully also add a deadline, and I can add some tags if I feel like doing that. And it will persist. Amazing. And we still can't really do that, so we have to add another task. And there we go, that's more like it. And it will all persist, and I can create another board if I feel like doing that. And that broke everything. Cannot have duplicate keys in a key each. Well, that was really strange. If I reload now, will it work? Nope, it will completely break. So this is a to-do board. Why did adding another board break that? Maybe it has to do with another board that, yeah, I guess it's just adding, like, whenever we add a board, we have like a really wrong data format for that. We have this on task delete we also need to handle. But we have this in here, or do we have it in the sidebar? We have like on board selected. This will be when we actually create a board. So create board key down, and this is where we actually create it. So we have this stuff here. This is where we create the board, and this is completely wrong. This is really old. So yeah, for creating a board, we just want to do like ID here. We can create a unique identifier. There we go. And items name here will just be tasks. Let's see that if I just remove my local storage now. There we got the default one, and then we can do another board. And that seemed to work without an issue. So now I can start adding stuff here. Homework. And the homework will be Spanish, math. And then in another board, I can create another column called another column. And this input field also kind of needs to have full width. So let's add that real quick. And inside here, I can create a new task. So I can do another task, and I can write a description, and I can add some subtasks, and I can complete this subtask, and I can reload, and boom, that has been saved. And then I can go back to default board, and boom, we have some tasks here. And I guess the padding would be quite nice here to have some padding so they can actually drop some items if they are empty. So this will be in to-do column. So I guess that's why we added that padding, so that we'd have some space here. If I try that now, yes, it will work flawlessly. I mean, it would be really nice if it kind of like opened itself whenever we are dragging something above it, you know. I'm not really sure if we can do that with onConsider. We kind of just don't have any space for the mouse, you know. There's not any space for it to detect that, but maybe we can make it like py 0.5, and maybe that will be enough. Let's see. If I try dropping it here, yeah, it's kind of difficult still. So let's try py1, I guess. Well, okay, py2 then. It really needs to be kind of effortless to move tasks here. So if I try here, yeah, I feel like it's much better now, but still a bit difficult. You know, we kind of want to put it over here, and then you want that to be part of the area, really. So a lot of gap here. If I add gap 1 instead, how will that look? Yeah, it kind of helped out. You know, we just don't want to have a lot of space between the heading here, because then the user will probably believe that they can place an item there, and we don't want that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that we need to work on here to make this look amazing and work amazing. And I feel like it would be nicer to split this video into 2 parts so that it doesn't become way too long like some of my videos tend to become. So I feel like we should continue working on this in the next episode. And I feel like this is a really nice new beginning for our to-do application, where we can create a more dynamic approach. And I really like this Trello approach, if I'm gonna be honest. I really like having these kinds of, lists or columns or whatever you want to call them. I really feel like it really lets the user do whatever they want with the to-do application. And I think it will break, horrendously now if I switch to mobile layout, or, well, it doesn't look that bad, but we don't want this at all. I feel like we kind of want to have a completely different layout when it's on the mobile, and we also want to have the checkbox in another way, I feel like. So the layouts are going to have to be changed quite drastically. But if I try making this full screen now, I feel like this looks much better than what we had previously, because we had this really kind of flex dynamic approach where it would size itself however it saw fit. But now we're being a bit more strict and saying that, hey, you should really be this size and you gotta obey that rule. So I feel like that looks really nice actually. So we can pet the pets, and we can pet the dog, pet the cat, and we can pet the cow if we feel like doing that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for the next part of this video, really, where we continue working on this and making it a bit more robust and also look a bit better. Feel free to comment if you have any thoughts or opinions or suggestions, or if you just want to say how your project is going. I would love to know. Also consider subscribing if you want to be part of this community that I'm trying to build. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.